Hey guys, and welcome back to another Tech Tutorial Tuesday. Recently, as in like 2 videos ago, I made a video or a tutorial on how to use Frigate in Home Assistant. And Frigate is essentially a dedicated or a total NVR solution that is built right into Home Assistant and has a lot of really nice features, including object and person detection. And I said in that video that I was going to be using Frigate in my own personal Home Assistant setup going forward. But the one downside of using Frigate is that there's no face recognition built in, at least not yet. And we've done videos in the past on doing face recognition with Deepstack. And so I got to thinking, what about if we could try and combine both of these pieces of software and use both of them and get the benefits of both of them simultaneously? So get the object and the person detection from Frigate, as well as the full NVR, being able to play back clips, save snapshots, etc, etc. And then also combine that with Deepstack so that I could have face recognition. And so I set out about doing that, and that is what we're going to be looking at today. I'll show you the automations and all of the config required to make that work. But first, I'm going to tell you about today's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes for creators who want to learn a new skill or even brush up on some existing ones. All of their classes are specifically tailored for learning, meaning there is no ads, and they are always launching new premium classes to their existing library. You can choose from a wide range of categories, and with Skillshare Premium, you get unlimited access so that you can learn at your own pace. I've just completed a Skillshare original class with the one and only Marquez Brown Lee called YouTube Success, Script, Shoot and Edit with MKBHD, which is helping me to develop my video making skills to make better content. But they also have classes about Arduino, Raspberry Pi, 3D printing, Internet of Things and even networking. Skillshare is less than $10 a month with an annual subscription, and the first 1,000 of you to click the link in the video description will get a free trial of premium membership so you can explore your creativity. Thank you again to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how this setup actually works. And it's not overly complicated. Essentially, we have Frigate running continuously as our NVR. It's doing its thing, it's saving snapshots, saving clips, and it's running our person and object detection. And when Frigate detects a person in the scene, it's then in turn going to trigger Deepstack to run its face recognition so that it can try and work out who the face of the person in the scene is. Deepstack is then going to run, it's going to return a match, hopefully, and if it does, it's also going to return the image with that match. And we can then save that image and in turn attach it to a notification using an automation and send that to the mobile phone of the person. So what we're going to do is we're going to attach that image straight to a notification, straight to your phone, and pick up the notification that way. Before we jump in, this is definitely more of an intermediate sort of advanced level video, and there are a few things you're going to need. First things, you're going to need Frigate to be up and running and installed with a configuration and configured the way you want it. I've done an entire dedicated video on that. You can find that up here. So you're going to need to have that up and working first. We're not going to be doing any of the installation or configuration in this video. The next thing you're going to need is to have Deepstack also up and running, particularly the face recognition portion of that video. Again, I've done a dedicated entire video on how to get that up and working, and you'll find that up here also. We are going to be doing a little bit of tweaking of the configuration, but make sure you have it up and installed and working first. Finally, you're going to need You're going to need some very good hardware in order to run this. Running either of these solutions by itself is demanding enough as it is, so you can imagine that running both of them at the same time is also going to be pretty taxing. So have some good hardware. Remember, you can use the Google Coral Stick. If you have one of those, you can use that to accelerate Frigate, and that is really going to help offload it, and so you only really need to worry about the Deepstack portion of it. But remember, both of these services can be run on separate devices, so they don't all need to be running on the same box. You can access them from different IP addresses, different hardware, so you don't need to have them all running on the same platform, and you can also have them separate to your Home Assistant instance. So just something to be aware of, but you are going to need some decent hardware in order to run this. With that said, let's jump in and we'll get the basic Deepstack configuration sorted. Alright, so let's very briefly go through the configuration that I've got for Deepstack and also Frigate. So if we head into the code, And then we'll take a look at the Frigate config first. Jump into our Frigate file. So you can see I've got my MQTT details at the top. I've set up my camera. Again, we're using the Raspberry Pi camera that's over on my left hand side. I've set the width, height, FPS, all that exact same stuff that we did in the dedicated video. I'm also tracking person, so I'm doing person detection only. I've got my snapshots running, so they are saving with the bounding box, and I've got them set to retain too, and I've also got the clips enabled. So that is my very basic Frigate configuration. It's pretty much identical to the previous dedicated video we did on that. So if you want to see exactly what all of these options are, make sure to go through that video. If we jump back into my Deepstack configuration, which is this section here, the image processing, and this image processing block, if we run through that, I have the Deepstack face platform, so I'm using face rather than object here. Obviously we're doing object detection in Frigate. It's running on the exact same machine. We have the port timeout. The detect only, that is important to set that to false rather than true. If you have detect only on, that is going to just it's going to look for faces in the image, but it's not actually going to attempt to recognize them. So it's important to set that to false so that it does actual face recognition. The next thing, all these other options are pretty simple, except down at the bottom you'll notice we have a camera. We haven't yet set the camera entity, so the source that Deepstack is going to use in order to run the face detection. If we jump into the configuration, so we're going to come back here in a second. So if we jump it into configuration, integrations, and then we look at the entities available inside Frigate, you'll see that we get obviously quite a few entities. We covered these in the previous video, but you'll notice things like we have the PiCam. So if I click on there, and you'll see that that is my stream now running. It's a little bit delayed on this screen, but for the proper version it does work well. So there's my RTSP stream running. And we also have other things like we have this PiCam person that is running, so that's active because I'm currently in the frame. If we open this one, you'll see it's detecting me in the image right there. So that is looking good. We also have this PiCam person, which changes as people enter into the frame. And we have this PiCam person motion. So it's currently, that PiCam person motion means that it's picking up at least one person inside the frame. And that'll change to off when there is no person in the frame. So that is going to become useful later on in the automation. You'll see if I cover up the camera frame just now, so you'll see there if I cover the frame or move it out of frame, that the person changes to 0 and the person motion becomes clear. So, and then if I remove my hand from the frame so that it's detecting me again, you'll see that it becomes detected and one object. So those entities are going to become very useful when we come to the automation. But let's jump back into the configuration a second. So the source that we want to use for our entity ID is going to be camera PiCam. You could also use the PiCam person, but I'm going to use the full RTSP stream, which is PiCam. So there we go. If we enter PiCam, and that is going to be the exact name that you've set in the Frigate configuration. So we jump back into the Frigate. That corresponds to this name up here. And I also want to add one more thing into the Deepstack configuration, and that is going to be to save the images to a folder. So we're going to remember with the Frigate video, all of the clips are available to browse in the media browser, so I can go into the media browser and view all of the clips. So for example, if we jump down into the to the last one, you'll see there when I just covered my hand over the camera, you'll see that it saves the clips onto the recording. So we want to do the same with Deepstack. We want to save the face or the person that it detects as images in the media browser so that we can view them if we want to. So back in the configuration, we're going to add just one more line into the config. We're going to want to add save file folder. And what we're going to do is we're going to save that again into the media browser folder. So it's going to be /media. We're going to create a new folder for Deepstack images. You could save them inside the Frigate folder if you wanted to, but we're going to create a new folder. It's up to you which one you choose. So Deepstack, and then we'll call this snapshots. And that looks good. So remember to set your camera to the Frigate camera and also set your save file folder. This, if we go and try and restart Home Assistant now, it's going to complain that that folder doesn't exist because it doesn't. So let's create that folder first. If we jump over into Terminal, and then I just simply need to make that folder. So I'm going to do mkdir for make directory. We enter -p, so the -p is going to create any folders. So if you have, it's basically going to create the entire folder structure for you. So if we do /media, and then it was Deepstack, and then snapshots. Okay, and now if we, so that is the snapshots folder created. If we jump back into media browser, into local media, and you'll now see we have this Deepstack folder here and we have snapshots inside of it. Obviously we don't have any files in there yet because we haven't ran it. So let's go ahead and restart Home Assistant for those changes to take effect. With Home Assistant restarted, we're then going to want to just test out Deepstack, make sure it's working properly. So we're going to manually trigger it for now. So if you head over into DevTools and then Services, and then search for the image processing service. And remember, you're going to have taught Deepstack all of your faces, or the faces you want to recognize. You're going to have went through the face learning process for Deepstack. Make sure to follow that previous video we did. We covered how to learn all of your faces into Deepstack. We covered that in great detail. So make sure to follow that first so that you have all of your faces already registered. I've already went through that process, so I'm going to select the image processing.scan service, select my entity, which there should only be one, and then hit the call service button. And now the camera should have recognized my face if I was in frame, and we can check that by going back to states and then search for image processing. And you'll see there it picked up me in the frame, so it got my name there, and also got the confidence level. The confidence level will be a little bit low because the camera is off to one side at the moment. So let's check what image, or what the image looked like that it actually got. So if we go over into media browser and back into our Deepstack snapshots folder, there should now be a couple of images. So these images will be the same, but the face latest will obviously be the last image that Deepstack scanned. So if we open that, and you'll see it got me there pretty well. So, and that is looking pretty good. Now we're going to create the automation for running Deepstack on demand when it gets a person detected in Frigate. So what we can do is, if we head over into our automations, and then we're going to create a new automation. So we'll just start with an empty automation, and then we'll just say run Deepstack on person detected. For the trigger, we're going to choose a state, and then we're going to choose, remember earlier we had, when we were inside the Frigate integrations, we saw that we had a couple of different entities, and one of those was the person detected motion entity. So if we search for person, and you'll see up at the top we have our binary sensor for somebody being detected in the frame. So if we click on that, a binary sensor is really nice to work with because there's just an on and an off state. So what we can basically do is set the 2 to on. So what this will do is it'll trigger this automation to run when this binary sensor, or when a person is detected from Frigate. So set that to on. We don't want any conditions for this one, and then in the actions we're going to do a call service, and we're going to do the image processing service. So the exact same as we just did inside the developer tools. We just need to select an entity, and that is looking pretty good. So that will now run every time. So if we save that, and what I'm going to do is just jump out of frame for a second. So you see there that my automation is triggered. It hasn't ran yet because my my camera has been detecting motion constantly. So if I jump out of frame for a second, so as soon as I uncover the camera here, it's going to run the Deepstack service. So if I remove the cover from the camera, and now if we jump back over into automations, you'll see that our automation has now been triggered. And if we head back into the media browser, and into local media, Deepstack, snapshots, and look at the latest face. You'll see there that it did in fact get me. The image is a little bit blown out just because when you take your hand off of the camera, all of the light suddenly comes in and it takes a little second to readjust. So it's actually even more impressive that it did get it whilst everything is a little bit blown out. So you can see just how accurate and how well Deepstack works. So that is looking really good. And the last thing we need to do is actually just to create or add the image into a notification so that we can get it straight to our phone. So if we head back into the automation and edit the automation, we're going to add just one more action. That's going to be call service for notify. I'm going to select my mobile device. I'm going to be showing you Android here. Unfortunately, I don't have an iOS device, so I can't show you the iOS notifications, but I've done an entire dedicated video again on how to do actionable notifications on both Android and iOS. So if you want a little bit more information, make sure to check out those videos. And then so I'm going to choose the 3 dots and we're going to edit in YAML. And then we're going to include some templates in this because I want to include the name of the person it recognized as well as the confidence level. So we'll go ahead and we'll choose data or enter data underscore template. And then on the next line down, we're going to enter message on a multi-line. And we're going to use a nice simple template in order to include the name of the person as well as the confidence. And I'll show you briefly, it will open a new tab, I'll show you briefly what the image processing sensor looks like. So basically I want to get this name of the first person as well as the confidence level. We're going to use some templates to do that. Again, watch the template video if you want to see how exactly I go through this, how I work out how to use templates and stuff like this. But for this purpose, we're going to do state underscore attribute. And then we're going to enter image underscore processing, image processing dot face. And then as the attribute, if we jump back, we want to get faces. So faces is the one we want to get. So if I enter faces, and then I want to close my bracket, and then I want to get the first face that it detected. So I enter 0, remember computers count from 0, so we enter .0. And then again, I need to get the attribute, which is going to be name in this case. So that's the first one. So if we enter 0.name, and then we can simply close our brackets. And then we're going to write a little message, say, so that's going to give me the name of the person. So that's going to be Lewis, was detected with confidence. And then again, we're just going to copy this template because it's almost the exact same. Copy that, paste it in here, and we're going to change name to, if we go back, we'll get the attribute, which is confidence. Let me just put that on a new line so it's easier to see. So that is what it looks like for our little message. So that's going to say Lewis was detected with a confidence of 80%. Next thing we're going to do is just to add our image, so it's relatively simple. The next line down under message, we're going to add data. And then on the next line down under that, to make sure to get your indentation correct, we're going to do image. And then the path to the image. So remember earlier we had the I think it was called face underscore latest dot JPEG, and that's always going to be the last image that it scanned, which is the one we want. So all we need to do is enter in quotes /media /local. A little bit confusing there because you don't see that local folder when you're in the media browser, but you do need to include it. So it's going to be /media /local, and then Deepstack /snapshots. Why do I keep typing like that? Snapshots /face underscore latest dot JPEG. Oh, back up here in the confidence, we're also just going to round this. Otherwise, it's going to give us, if we look back in the entities, it's going to give us these 3 decimal points after that, and I don't really need them. So I'm going to round it to 1 decimal point, like so. And that is looking pretty good. If we now save that, wait for it to trigger, you'll need to move out of frame so that the binary sensor goes back to the off state and then comes on and triggers. So if we wait a second for that to happen, now this time when I release it, it should send a notification straight to this phone. And there we go. Within a couple of seconds, we get a really nice notification with our image in it, and it looks like this. I'm not sure how clear it'll be, but it's drawn the box around my face. It's also given us our confidence level, along with the name from the template. So that is how to integrate Deepstack with Frigate so that you can trigger and run face recognition on demand using Frigate as the trigger. Finally, it's worth saying that this isn't sort of the final solution that I'm going to be using. It's not quite perfect. There are some things that do need tweaking, and I'm going to continue to sort of refine them and make them a little bit better in the next week or so before I implement it. But this should get you most of the way there if you want to copy along and do what I've done here. And then sort of fine tune it for your setup and your environment. But that is about all the time we have for this video. Let me know if you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned something, hopefully it was useful. And let me know in the comments if you plan on integrating this or setting this up with your own setup and your own Home Assistant. I'm really interested to see where you guys use this sort of thing. It's always very interesting to me. So let me know where you're using it if you plan on integrating it. And if you want to support the channel, you can do so by becoming a Patreon on Patreon, and your support allows me to keep on making videos just like this. Thank you to all my current Patreon supporters. Your support is very much appreciated. Make sure to drop this video a like and get subscribed, and I will see you in the next video.